Hey everybody, Matt Jobin with Reach Your Summit. I've had a lot of you asking questions about a specific tent that I use in 3-season conditions. That tent's the Mountain Hardwear Ghost UL 1. So I thought I'd put together a video for you showing you the setup, features, advantages, disadvantages, just so you can see it a little more in detail. All right. So I've got everything packed up here. So this is the Mountain Hardwear Ghost UL 1, all packed up. There's the footprint, the tent body and rain fly, which I have in a lighter weight stuff sack. Tent poles, and the stakes and extra guy line. With it fully packaged, I weighed mine on the scale around 1 pound, 14 ounces, minus the footprint, of course. So this right here weighed around 1 pound, 14 ounces. And just the tent body, the rain fly, and the tent poles, because this is a freestanding tent, weighs right around 1 pound, 10 ounces. This is one of the lightest tents that I have found that is completely freestanding. But there are some sacrifices that you make when you go with a tent that is this light in weight. The tent itself, I think, was around $300 or $350, and the footprint is another $50. And I think that it's actually lower price now. I think I've seen it on Mountain Hardwear's website listed as $199. The footprint is 100% nylon polyamide. It's kind of reminds me of Tyvek. And Ghost UL1. You can hear that paper-like sound. And let me just set this up. So here's the footprint. This kind of gives you an idea of what the floor plan will be like. And the footprint on my scale weighed around an additional 4.5 ounces. That's because of the grommets and the little bit of cordage and the nylon webbing that you have on there. Alright, so here you have the tent. Completely freestanding. But super narrow when it is freestanding. You could still get away with it. Yeah, this is what you get for going as light as possible. Alright, so this tent uses a modified Jake's foot buckle. So the tent pole just slides right into that buckle. And then you have plastic buckles here. And so they're using DAC Featherlight NSL poles, which are super lightweight. And then the shock cord inside. And you have a couple of hubs. You have a hub here, a plastic one. And then you have one right down here too. And the rest of the plastic buckles. And it clips in like that the whole entire way around with those Jake's foot buckles. The tent body here is a 20 denier nylon ripstop with a 1200 millimeter polyurethane sill coating, so it's waterproof to a certain extent. I haven't had any issues with it. And the nylon wall, the bathtub style wall, actually goes up really high on the side of this tent, so you get good wind protection, you get good precipitation protection, and with the rain fly on, you'll see why this is slanted so high near the foot. I'll show you that in just a few moments in this video. And then there's a no-see-um mesh, so you shouldn't have any trouble with bugs at all. You can treat this tent with permethrin if you wanted to, which I have, and that'll give you an extra barrier against the insects. Now the entry and exit to the tent is on the front. So it's kind of a tunnel style design, similar to the Big Agnes Fly Creek series. So some people might find that to be cumbersome, especially with how small this door is. Luckily, I'm a pretty thin guy, so I don't have any issues with that at all. And with this smaller space inside of the tent, you might also find it to be a little uncomfortable. I'm around 5'11" and 165 pounds, and I find this to work comfortably for me, but it does feel like a livable bivvy pretty much. So you have a fair amount of headroom that's lifted off of you, but there's not a lot of room to toss around. There's also not a lot of room to sit up and get changed and to wait out a storm and things like that. And as I just mentioned, this fabric is super thin. Check out my hand right through that. So with that 20 denier ripstop nylon, you definitely want to go with a footprint underneath this. You can go with the Mountain Hardwear footprint that I had showed you earlier, or you can go with a shower curtain or Tyvek or a multi-purpose tarp, whatever you prefer. So the peak height on this tent is 34 inches from the bottom up to about right here. The length of it is 81 inches, and it's going to be 35 inches wide near the shoulders and 21 inches wide near the foot. Though this tent may sag, you can take some line or some extra cordage, which they provide you with, or you can use your own, and you can tie this. There's a loop here, and there's a loop on the other side, and you can tie these out and stake them to the ground if you wanted, and have that extra part of the tent pulled out so it's not hitting you, which you want to avoid to prevent condensation, and it'll help with the ventilation also. Now, if you have the rainfly set up on this tent, which I'll show you in just a minute, that is also going to help address this tent from sagging in. The rainfly here uses a 10 denier nylon ripstop with a 1200 millimeter polyurethane sill coating. It works very, very well. It is seam taped also. The color choice and the thin fabric lives up to its name, Ghost, and in really overcast conditions and when it's rainy out, you do get a little bit of extra light because of the color choice with this rainfly fabric. So it could make you feel a little more comfortable than sitting in something that's dreary looking and dark. And I want to show you the setup up close for the rainfly. So underneath, we've got this clip right here. Goes right around this plastic grommet, just like that. Then we can just drape this down. Here are those loops that I mentioned, and the resolution to having the tent sag is you just clip these in. Just like that. Do the same with the other side here. Find that loop. There it is. Just clip this in. Just like that. Then I have these little toggles here that go right at the end of the Jake's foot. So that slides in just like this. And then it anchors in. Do the same with the other side. Just like that. Do the same with the front. So as you can see, this is a really ingenious design. They put a lot of thought into this tent with keeping it light, still keeping it simple, which I am all about simplicity out on the trail. And get this last one in there. And that's that. Then we'll stake it out. So here's the extra line that they provide you with in case you wanted to just use the tent body with the footprint. And then the stakes that they give you are going to be just your standard lightweight hook style stakes. And those go right into the loop, just like that. And then I stake it out. Let's do the same with these. Alright, so I'll show you on one of the sides. As I stake this out, you'll notice that gets pulled out, and that's going to pull the tent body away from me. and help with the ventilation. Alright, so here's the tent all set up. This is why the nylon is up higher on the back. So that way, because of this fabric, is not completely covering the entire tent. That helps cut down the weight. It gives you increased ventilation, and you still have protection from precipitation. Same thing on the other side. And your entry to the tent with the rain fly on, it's going to be kind of on the side. So you open this up and you can tie that back if you wanted to with this. You get a nice wall, so you got some good protection from the elements if you needed it. It also helps with getting in and out of the tent a little easier. With the vestibule closed, you have about 4 square feet of space in the tent. You're looking at about 16 square feet for the floor plan inside of this tent. So this is a great little tent. I've really enjoyed it so far. I've brought it out on a lot of trips up to Vermont, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. You don't need as much space to set it up, which is really nice. If you're, waiting out a storm, it can give you a little bit of sanity for a few hours just because it is a little more livable than a bivvy. But if you're in there for prolonged periods of time, you might start feeling claustrophobic and want to move around a little bit. But I don't find it to be too much of an issue for myself personally. If I were to put my pack inside of the vestibule, it is right outside of the door. It's nice if I'm inside of the tent for the night and I don't need to get out and move around. All of my stuff is right there if I need to reach out and grab anything, and it's still protected from the elements. You don't have to just store your pack here. There's another way that you can be able to get in and out of the tent a little easier throughout the night, and I'm going to show you how I do that now. So this is one piece to how I address the lack of livability space inside of this tent and having to most likely keep my pack outside of the tent. This sleeping pad, this is the Thermarest Neo Air X-Lite, and this pad is about 48 inches long, so 4 feet. So on me personally, it'll come up to my knees. So set that in there. So that gives you an idea already. Now I know what you're thinking. 4-foot long pad? That is crazy. How do you get a good night's sleep? Let me show you. With a sleeping bag in there and the pad underneath. This is a quilt style design sleeping bag that I've been using for the last couple of months now, and I love it. This is the Sierra Designs Cloud. It's a zipperless mummy style top quilt bag, and this is a step in the right direction in my opinion. But so I've got my bag. You can see it goes all the way down to the foot area and almost touches it, but it doesn't quite. And then I have my 4-foot long pad underneath. There's a sleeve back here to hold the pad in place. And then I have that little bit extra where my feet are either on the ground or There are a couple of solutions to that, and I'm going to show you those right now. Alright, so here's one of my solutions. This backpack. With my pack and a lot of those items taken out of it, I can just lay the pack right down at the foot end of the tent and use that for the spot where I don't have any padding, and that'll help keep my feet elevated. It helps lower the swelling in my feet from hiking all day. It helps with circulating blood flow, and it gives me a really comfortable sleep. It's not for everyone. If you're a side sleeper or you like to toss and turn when you're sleeping, chances are that probably won't work for you. I usually just lay in a standard position throughout the night. I don't move around too much, so I find it to work well for me. If you do toss and turn and you still want to go with a system like this specific pack does come with a frame, but it's removable. So I have it frameless now, and in here I have a Z-Lite sit pad. This is gonna make up for that area where I don't have any padding. All right, so getting in and out of the tent isn't too bad. I'll show you getting in the tent with the rain fly on, and then I'll also show you myself inside of the tent with the rain fly off, so you can see the peak height and see me moving around and things like that. There you go. There's also a little pocket here for a headlamp, and then here is the tent. So, still have a little bit of room. So my feet very close to the end, and my head, if I zip it up, there you go. I've got about a couple of inches. There's the tent body pulled out on either side. The tent body is seam taped also. So this gives you a better idea of the peak height and how much room I have inside of this tent. And then moving around, tossing around, it is a little bit harder, but you get used to it after a little while. So there you have it, the Mountain Hardwear Ghost UL backpacking tent. I've been very satisfied with this tent. I've had it since end of March, early April of 2017. I've used it on multiple trips in the Berkshires, the Green Mountains, White Mountains, and I've had it in various conditions, high winds, precipitation. I've been out in really heavy rain, and it's held up very well. I stayed nice and dry inside of the tent. On humid nights, I did get a little bit of condensation That's unavoidable with any shelter that you go with. But I do find it to be a little more stuffy with this type of shelter than a bigger double wall tent or even a bivvy with a tarp. You get a little more airflow and breathability with that type of setup than I find I have with this particular setup. But it's still a great shelter. It's one that I love carrying with me because it's so compact and light, and it's helped get me through a lot of trips and made them more enjoyable than they could have been. With my 5'11" frame, as you saw, I had a little bit of room inside of the tent, not as much as I would in a bigger tent, but depending on the trip, that might be something that I'm willing to sacrifice. If you're around my height, 5'11" or shorter, or if you want to channel your inner hobbit, you might find this shelter to work very well for you. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to leave them down below. I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I hope this video helped answer your questions and show you the tent a little more in detail. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the trail.